Hey patrons, Mark here with your bonus video for March 2023. This is going to be a little bit weird. I haven't done vlog style videos for a very long time. I did them when I first started the Patreon, but haven't done anything like that since. Obviously I'm on camera for developing, but those are much more structured and pretty much scripted. They just don't look like it. But this is just me chatting to my iPhone in my office, feeling kind of weird. Anyway, I just wanted to use this bonus video as a chance to kind of share some thoughts and memories and experiences of going to San Francisco for the Game Developers Conference last week, I guess. What is time anymore? So back in, I think it was probably January, I suddenly remembered that GDC exists and is happening, and I have been working on a new demo for my Untitled Magnet game, and decided that, hey, if I could, get this demo done, slap it onto a Steam Deck, and then go to GDC, I could give it to a bunch of different people, game designers, game developers, people in the industry, and get some feedback. That was my plan. There's a video coming very soon, new episode of Developing, where I talk about the issues I had getting that demo actually finished in time, but I did, and I got it out there. I bought the Steam Deck and traveled out. I bought, booked a hotel and a plane, and went to San Francisco. And so I thought I'd just tell you, what happened day to day. I have been to GDC before, back in 2015, I think it was. So this feels like a lifetime ago. I had just started Game Maker's Toolkit at this point. I'd done 2 or 3 videos, but I was at GDC for Pocket Gamer, who I used to work for, and I didn't get to see hardly any of the city at all. It was very much just going from my hotel to the Moscone Center, and then staying there all day, just doing back-to-back meetings. This time I wanted to, do it right and actually see some of San Francisco, so I flew in a few days early just to have a few days of tourist time. So the first day I got there, to be honest, I was exhausted. It's a 10-hour flight from London to California. It is, and I just do not sleep on planes. I just cannot do it. I've never been able to sleep on flights, so I was very tired when I got there. Didn't do a huge amount that day, but what I like to do when I go to a new city is to just kind of step out of my hotel, pick a random direction and just start walking and kind of just see what the city is like what's the sort of vibe, not try and go directly to the tourist traps, but just be like, what's it like to just sort of be in this place. I've done it in places, Berlin and Amsterdam and other places I've been to. San Francisco is cool, has a nice vibe, interesting architecture and stuff, but it does have, unfortunately, very sadly, a pretty bad homeless problem. I remember it back when I previously went, and it seems to have gotten a lot worse now. Some of the people I talked to there said that COVID had a really bad negative impact on the homeless problem. So there's people with, it's not just people sleeping rough, but people with really bad mental health issues and a lot of drug use, and so that just doesn't have the nicest vibe for wandering around. But anyway, walked around, went to the pier, and went to a really cool museum called the Exploratorium. It's a science museum, and it's got all sorts of interesting stuff in it. There's a whole section about optical illusions, which was amazing. There's a whole thing about just kind of tinkering and making cool stuff. There's this huge workshop that you can watch people just building random machines and things. There's a whole section about cool stuff happening in the natural world. It's a huge museum. It's really worth visiting. To be honest, I was a bit too tired to enjoy the entire thing. I kind of ran out of energy and ran out of steam halfway through, but really, really cool. That was a good place to go to. The next day I went back to the pier, but this time I took one of the historic cable cars to get there. There was actually a cable car station just directly outside my hotel, right outside the door, which was so cool. So I could get on that and travel to the pier. One of the things that makes San Francisco so iconic is that it is a very diagonal city, just hills everywhere, which makes it Pretty exhausting to walk anywhere, but it makes for a really cool cable car ride as you're like going up these hills and then suddenly going down, and you're having to like actually hold on because it feels like you're going to fly off. And you get some amazing views of like the Bay Bridge and Chinatown and stuff as you're moving through the city blocks. At the pier, I went to a thing called the Musée Mécanique, which is a free museum dedicated to arcade machines, not just video games, though it has plenty of that. It had things like Pong, Space Invaders, Pac-Man, up to more modern stuff like Metal Slug, not that modern these days, Street Fighter, like a whole range of things, but also really classic, like antique, mechanical attractions that predate arcade machines, like pinball machines, a fortune teller, these little like dioramas that you put a coin in and it just sort of animates these little things moving around. This thing where you put, you look through this lens and you see like 5 photographs of a woman in her knickers, and it's like some, at the time would have been really naughty, but it's now just like, okay, that's funny. And the cool thing is that it's like you get like a lot of bang for your buck. Like I said, it's free to enter. I think I got change for like a $10 note, and I played loads and loads of stuff because the machines were like 25 cents, 50 cents to play anything. So just really had my fill there. That was great. Then I went to Fisherman's Wharf, which is the big tourist place in San Francisco. This is just like full of gift shops and things like that. I did see this amazing thing, which was this guy doing like a show, and he was like on top of a tall unicycle, playing guitar, juggling fire sticks, and he just had this like amazing manic air of like desperation about him. He was just like, it was like he was like in a huge rush to get this thing done, and it was just a huge like really wanted everyone to like him. It was, I don't know, it just had a really funny vibe to him. And he also said like, everyone should give me $20 for as a tip for doing this, and I thought that seems a bit much, so I put $5 into his hat. Also on the pier is the iconic sea lions of San Francisco. They're just sort of hanging out on some wooden pallets off the pier. They're pretty cool. Later that day, I took a boat ride over to Alcatraz Island, which is the iconic prison island. I think it was like America's first maximum security prison, but the island has had an amazing history of being a fort and then a prison, and then Native Americans like took it over and just kind of lived there. And the whole thing has been really well preserved. It's really interesting. You can explore so much of it. You can see, the actual island where the prison guards lived. You can go in the cell blocks. You can go in the yard. There's an audio tour that you can just get on your phone. It was amazing. The only issue, I guess, I had was that it just it really reminded me of the Alcatraz level in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I played the heck out of that game. It's one of my favorite games. Played it a lot as a kid, and then going to the real Alcatraz was really bizarre because the level in the game, it's, as far as I can remember, is a really good close recreation of the island. And then my brain is just having this weird deja vu of everywhere I see. I'm like, oh, I've done a nose grind down there. I've kickflipped over that, and the island is like a massive slope all the way up, so it's like perfect for skateboarding. It was like actually visiting, Ravenholm or E1M1 from Doom or something. Very strange experience, but no, it was a really cool tour, and really fun. Enjoyed that too. On day 3, my goal was to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge, which was about a 2-hour walk from my hotel. I saved a bit of time by taking another cable car. It was just so cool. I had to, took the cable car to the pier, and then I had like maybe an hour and a half to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge. So I just went for a wander. I found a really cool little craft fair along the way, got some gifts, and just, put my podcasts on, slapped my earbuds in, put some podcasts, and just walked and saw the sights, walked along the sea. It was just amazing. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when I'm in a place, is just like take in the scenery while listening to a good podcast. When I actually finally got to the bridge, this thing is is amazing. Like, it deserves the hype. It is probably like the world's most famous bridge. As bridges go, pretty good. It's huge. It took like 40 minutes to walk from one end to the other. Engineering marvel. I mean, when you get right in the middle and you realize that you are on this span that is, in the middle of the ocean and is just very far away from the two struts, you realize how far away you are, and the wind is kicking up, but the bridge doesn't move an inch. It's incredible. It doesn't move. And those, huge red struts that you see in all the photographs, they are staggeringly big. They are like vertigo inducing just to look at them. Really, really cool. When I finally got over to the other side, there were some more cool places to go for a walk, but I was, again, pretty tired. There was a lot of walking, so I just got an Uber back to my hotel. Pretty funny, the guy in the Uber asks me why I'm in San Francisco, and I said that I'm going to the Game Developers Conference, and he says, "Oh, game developers. When's Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out?" Which I thought was pretty funny. I said, I have no idea. But I did sort of blow his mind by telling him that the game is actually made in Scotland, not America, which is, always a funny little piece of trivia. Okay, so now it is Sunday, which is kind of like day 0 for GDC. A bunch of people have already arrived, and so start meeting up for pre-show parties and stuff. I met up with some friends for breakfast and lunch, and then I went to an indie dev meetup in a park, which was pretty sweet. Met up with some people I'd never met before, and showed them my game on my Steam Deck, and just generally chatted about all things game dev and Game Maker's Toolkit and GDC. That was really cool. Monday was day 1 of the conference, and the first thing I needed to do was to get my badge, my accreditation. I was on a press pass for this one. Turns out that there was a monster line to get your COVID vaccination wristband that lets you into the conference. It wasn't a great setup where they just had a massive line, snaking all the way around several blocks. I was in it for like an hour, which wouldn't have been like too bad, except that the guy behind me started making conversation. Immediately found out that he's in like NFTs, the metaverse, Web3, and he's just trying to show me this game on his phone. It looks, awful, and it was very hard to hide how little interest I had in his NFT project. So sorry to that guy for looking incredibly bored. I met a few cool people on day 1 of GDC. I got a sweet consulting gig that I'm looking forward to, and then in the evening I went over to the Unity offices and met up with some people from Unity, and there was also just a bunch of Unity people who make YouTube videos about Unity there. Sam Yam, Bargy, Jason Weinman, Code Monkey, Matt from Game Dev Guide. So we met up, went for some food and bowling, and I was awful at bowling. I didn't hit a single pin, and then gave up and let someone else take my turn because I was too bad at bowling. Again, a recurring theme of this one, pretty tired, but also just bad. So went back to my hotel. On day 2, I had breakfast with a couple guys from Double Fine, which was amazing, really fun. And also I gave them my Steam Deck to play my game, and I've got this weird out-of-body experience of being like, these are people from Double Fine, like a real game design studio, and they're playing my crappy little magnet game. This is bizarre, but it was really cool, and they were a great bunch of guys to chat to. I met some other people that day. I went to a meeting with Game Maker and met people who work on the engine. It was really cool because one of the guys who works there has been in the industry for a very long time and used to work for DMA Design, which is now Rockstar. So he worked on like Lemmings and the original Grand Theft Auto. So I got to kind of be the fanboy that time, to be like, oh my god, I love Lemmings. Lemmings is like one of my favorite games from my childhood. I also went to the one GDC talk I was able to attend. I actually put loads of GDC talks on my calendar that I was planning to go to, but ultimately just ended up, meeting up with people instead, or I'd be walking towards one of the talks and someone would grab me and would chat, and then I'd miss the start of the talk. It was cool to go to one at least. I've never been to a GDC talk before. I've seen so many of them. I'm always using them, obviously, in research for my videos and talking about GDC talks, but to actually sit in one was a kind of a weird experience. It was a bit like the Alcatraz thing all over again, but this time just with a game designer talking about his craft. It was actually the reason I went to this one, specifically like made my way to this one, was because the speaker was Evan Hill. He was a level designer at Naughty Dog. He's now at Obsidian. But he was one of the guests on the Level series, talking about the level from The Last of Us Part 2. And so I wanted to just kind of support his talk and also grab him afterwards and just sort of say hi. While I was waiting for him to finish talking to all the people who had crowded around him, I talked to Peter Field, who worked on The Last of Us Part 1, is now at Media Molecule working on Dreams. He's also helped me out with videos. I don't think he's ever been on camera, but anyway, we've chatted before, and it was nice to see each other in person and talk to a guy from Gorilla. The wonderful thing about GDC is there's just people everywhere, just walking around, working on the biggest, most amazing games, but also brilliant indie games and all sorts. I'm just like, chatting to someone. I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, I work at 343. I'm working on Halo, or I'm at EA working on The Sims. Or I'm the guy who made Hyper Light Drifter or whatever, Alex Preston. So yeah, really cool to just constantly be running into cool people to meet. That evening, I went to a bring your own game event. Basically, the idea is you bring your game on a laptop or Steam Deck and just show it to people attending the event. It's in a bar somewhere in San Francisco. I went there obviously with my game. On the way there, I met a couple of developers. We shared an Uber to the event, and I found out that one of them was working on his own puzzle game. So we kind of like took one corner of the bar with some sofas and some couches and turned it into like the puzzle game corner. Like, if you're making a cool puzzle game, come over here. We'll show you our game. We'll play your game. And then I realized that Patrick Traynor, Patrick's Powerbox, Patrick, we've been chatting back and forth on email about my game and has been giving me some feedback. I realized that he was there at the event, got chatting to him, and we hung out. It was really cool, talking more about Magnet games and stuff. I didn't really play anyone else's game there at the event. I was just sort of chatting to people. And then there was like a terrible storm in San Francisco that night, and instead of going to the party next door, which was just so loud. The thing about these parties at GDC is like, I just want to talk to people about game design. You get these parties that are incredibly loud, so back to the hotel. Day 3 was when the GDC show floor was actually open. So you can see all of these mad booths and stands and people showing off games, people showing off random weird stuff. This is some people skateboarding in mocap suits. I went to the Godot stand. I'm just like talking to all of the game engine people, it seems, chatting to them about their engine, and played some random games here and there. That was really fun. I also went to the IGF Pavilion, so the IGF Independent Games Festival. They have a award ceremony, and so all of the people who are nominated have a booth there. I found the guys who made Case of the Golden Idol, a really cool detective game that was made in part out of sort of inspired by my video on detective games. So it was nice to meet those people in person. And then one of the student games is called Slider, and the people who made it were like, hey, Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit, we made this game for the GMTK Game Jam a few years ago. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me earlier? Like, I want to support GMTK Game Jam winners, so or nominees or whatever, people who have taken their jam game to do amazing things. Like, I want to support you. But anyway, it's nice to meet them and just wander around the GDC show floor. Then in the afternoon in the gardens, we hosted a sort of game dev YouTuber meetup. So there's GMTK plus a bunch of the other channels I was talking about before. Tommy Thompson from AI and Games was there. And it was just, nice to chat to people. And then, we had people come, or I had people come who were fans of GMTK, and there were a lot of them. It was a huge, huge turnout, just constantly meeting with loads and loads of people. It was amazing to meet so many people who watch this channel or participate in the Game Jam. It was, to be honest, I mean, this happened to me throughout the week, I should sort of add, which is that, yes, I had the meetup, but pretty much everywhere I went in GDC, people would stop me and be like, are you Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit? Because they've now seen my face on developing. I was like a minor celebrity. It was very flattering and very cool, very exhausting at times, a lot of socializing, but it was really nice. And then at the meetup, there was also some some people who were like famous game developer people came along. Casey from Slay the Spire was just like, "Hey, nice to meet you, Mark." And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you do?" He's like, "I made Slay the Spire." I'm like, "I know who. Yeah, Slay the Spire. That's like the biggest game ever." One of the developers from Tokitori gave me this amazing Tokitori plush as a gift, which was fantastic, and other people as well. So yeah, it was a really, really cool event. I've done 2 like GMTK meetups now. I did one in Amsterdam, one in San Francisco, and I'm just going to keep doing them because it's just amazing to meet people and hear how GMTK has helped people like get into the games industry or start doing stuff at university or whatever. Brilliant. It was a very long day of socializing, so instead of going into any parties that night, I went to the IGF Awards ceremony, like I was talking about, which was very cool. And best of all, the 2 games I just mentioned, Case of the Golden Idol and Slider, both won their respective awards, which was fantastic. So congratulations to them. Day 4 was my last day in San Francisco. This was the Thursday. I was flying out that evening. I started by having breakfast with 2 guys from Remedy, which is fantastic. We talked about Control and Alan Wake and just chatted about game design in general while eating loads of... didn't have pancakes that day. What did I have? I had like an English muffin with egg and stuff. I don't know, it was nice. I like American breakfast. It's good. I had some other meetings. I hung out with Patrick Barrowbox again. We just had another big long chat about game design. I went to Lost Levels, which is like a sort of cool, punky, off-brand GDC talks in the middle of the gardens, where people can just have these like 5-minute talks about all sorts of stuff in games. That was sweet. But then I had to go because I had to go to the Double Fine offices over breakfast. They sort of invited me to come visit the offices. It was only a few blocks away from GDC, and it was fantastic. It was amazing to go there. It's a very cool, it's one of those things. It's like a very unassuming building in the middle of San Francisco, and then you go inside and it's just full of random gamer tat and board games and video games and stuff, and all of these like mementos of Double Fine's games, as well as Tim Schafer, the CEO of Double Fine, his previous games. I wish I got a photograph of the Day of the Tentacle, this massive like 5-foot tentacle. It's fantastic. The only photo I have is me standing really awkwardly in their meeting room. But if you've watched the Psychonauts 2 documentary, and if you haven't, you should, because it's brilliant. But if you have, then you will recognize this room, as one of the places in the documentary. And so it was just cool to be there, cool to be a part of it. Unfortunately, it was a very quiet day. Wasn't many people in the offices, so I didn't get to meet too many of the actual Double Fine team. And I was kind of wondering if I was going to meet Tim Schafer, and I was like worrying that I was, what would I say to this man? I don't want to sound like an idiot, I've got to say something smart. He wasn't there, so it was like, phew. I'll just have to, hopefully I'll go back again next year, and I'll have, a year to think of something clever to say. But yeah, amazing to visit this place. Anyway, that's me. I went to GDC. I went to San Francisco. It was overall an incredible experience. I had a really good time. I loved just being a tourist in California. That was cool, and GDC was great. I met so many people. Like, I must have talked to literally 100 people, if not more. It was non-stop, and it was fantastic. I had, brilliant meetings and, meetups and just having breakfast and lunch with people. It was great. And I was just, the overwhelming feeling of like being a member of the games industry in a way that I've always felt as press. You kind of have, you feel a little bit as an outsider. These are the people making the games, and then you are now reporting on the games that they are making. But now I feel like I'm part of it. Not only is Game Maker's Toolkit like well regarded in the industry, but now I'm making my own game and showing it to people and getting feedback and stuff. I don't know, I've just felt like part of it. I feel like I should say that the games press is definitely part of the games industry. That was more my own feelings of being an outsider. Now, I totally get the argument that GDC is quite exclusionary. This came up a lot. One of the award speeches from Josh Sawyer of Obsidian. Can't remember any words at the moment. He was saying, like, you know, he used his acceptance speech to call out how exclusionary GDC is. A lot of this comes from the fact that San Francisco is a very expensive city. I mean, my hotel cost eye-watering, and it wasn't even a particularly fancy one. It was a pretty normal hotel, but it cost a bomb compared to anywhere else in the world, you know, other than like Los Angeles or London or something, Dubai. So yes, it's very expensive to get there. And then the passes, I mean, mine was free because it's press, but if you pay for a pass, it's very expensive. And obviously there's loads of talks at GDC, and a lot of that information is locked away in the vault, and you have to pay to access it. They do release quite a lot for free, but I feel like they should just release everything for free after like 6 months. I highly doubt that would hurt attendance numbers to GDC. That is not why people are going to GDC, is because they don't want to miss out on the information. Like, you go because you want to meet with people, or just because, you know, Sony or Microsoft is paying for you to go anyway, whatever, you know. So yes, I would totally be in favor of them doing whatever it takes to get more of that GDC information out there, or just like move it to Vancouver or somewhere a little bit cheaper, maybe. Anyway, really great show, and so I hope you enjoyed my little trip down memory lane. Also, thank you for literally funding my trip there. Usually when I'm doing talks and trips around the world, I'm going to a studio or a university, and those people pay for my flight and hotel. This time I paid my own way, and so thank you so much for that. That's what Patreon funds are for. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and goodbye.